Can you believe that the new Charger EV has such low demand? Only about 10% of the viewers on the channel who voted in this poll would rather have the EV variant of the new Charger over the inline six and, of course, the Hemi. The Hemi is still the majority of interest on the Charger. When was the last time a new car came out after a long time and people would it's not even close, people would much rather have the old technology? Has Dodge really messed up? We'll also talk about how heavy and big the Charger is today compared to some other massive SUVs. We'll mention the Rivian R2 and R3. I'm very excited for both of those vehicles. Can Rivian survive to get both of these vehicles out on the market? That's another question altogether. Aston Martin says, hey, we're kind of laughing in the background because Dodge and their EV interest for the Charger is not very impressive. And they're saying, hey, we know our customers don't want EVs, so we're going to keep postponing them and keep giving people what they want. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed. Every Sunday morning, I do an industry EV news update. This week has been insane with the release, or should I say the reveals of the Rivian R2 and R3. The R3 was a surprise for most people. And then also the new Charger EV. This thing is exciting because it's something different, right? A muscle car EV as they're claiming it, but it is insanely big, insanely heavy, and it's going to be very, very expensive. And we know that they're going to come out with much more high horsepower variants of this in the future, over 1,000 horsepower. I wouldn't doubt it. But the Daytona model is the range topper at launch, 670 horsepower, 0 to 60 under 3.5 seconds. Is that fast? Absolutely, that's super fast. But in the terms of electric propulsion, it's not that impressive, to be honest. Quarter mile, 11.5 seconds. The EV is actually the only one available at launch. About 6 months later, hopefully before that, if they see the demand on the EV not that high, maybe they try to rush out the inline six soon, because I mean, inline six, we know how good they are. I mean, the history of inline sixes with the 2JZ, etc. Like, there's just endless amounts of impressive inline sixes. But what BMW's been able to do just recently with the B58 engine is just amazing. Now, we'll see how good this 3-liter twin-turbo inline six Hurricane engine is, but I hear it's quite a bit heavier than the BMW engine. But yeah, anyways, despite that, we have 550 horsepower with the inline six, 420 horsepower on the standard output inline six. And Dodge could keep boosting this horsepower figure in the future if they wanted to. I know I would much rather have the inline six, but I also agree with most of you. I'd rather have the 6.4-liter Hemi with a manual, maybe even a Hellcat. I mean, the Hellcat's just too much power, in my opinion, for the streets. So the 6.4 naturally aspirated, I really like that engine. So that's probably the route I would be going, either with the 6-speed manual or the 8-speed ZF. I'll see you guys again. Comment down below. But some of you guys are saying, Old America, you're sticking with the V8. Some of you are just saying, I'm just going to go get the Dark Horse. Don't blame you. Long live the Hemi. Depending on prices and reliability, the 6-pack, but not anytime soon. We're talking about a new Dodge here, and he doesn't want to have to visit the dealerships. There's no such thing as an EV muscle car. It's hard to argue that. The inline six is kind of cool. I agree. I'm glad they offer that too, because if it was EV only, it would be one of the biggest flops, I think, of modern muscle car history, if not the biggest flop ever. V8 or Riot, yeah. So let's get into some of these comparisons with the Charger Daytona. It weighs as much as a Kia EV9. And how much is that? We're talking it's over 5,000 pounds. So we're talking nearly 6,000 pounds. And look how much it weighs. It weighs 1,500 pounds more than the old Scat Pack wide body. Are you kidding me? This is like unacceptable. What do you guys think? Is this okay? Is this, it's not a track car anyways, it's a drag car. So as long as it goes straight, fast in a straight line is really all that matters. With electrification, everything's big, heavy, and fast. So how does this really stand apart from the crowd? What's also crazy is the EV9 is a fully loaded interior with seating up to 7 people. The Daytona EV for 5,800 pounds. Why is it so heavy? Why is this vehicle so heavy? Not only is it heavier, look, it's 6 inches longer than the old Scat Pack. It's even taller. It's wider. This thing is an absolute boat. And a car scoops, Dodge Charger Daytona is longer than a BMW X7, heavier than a Cadillac Escalade ESV. Not the like the IQ or whatever the new electric Escalade is. It is heavier than an Escalade V8 ESV. Do you think Dodge would be better off using these resources for these massive batteries in this for plug-in hybrids and other hybrids in their lineup? I probably at this point, I'm just not excited for this vehicle. I think it looks cool, and apparently Dodge doesn't have a sound for it yet, and that's a big part of the Hemi and the V8 and the current Charger and Challenger is the cool sound it makes. That's gone now, and they're going to have to come up with some synthetic noise. I don't know, guys. I'll see you down below. I don't want to get too disappointed without driving it, but something that's nearly 6,000 pounds in a performance coupe, I just don't know. I don't know, guys. Actually, I do know. I don't want it. I'd rather have the inline six or the V8, especially the V8. So we have the R2 and R3 here. The R2 is going to be the Model Y fighter. Even though it's got a very long-looking presence to it, it's actually shorter than a Tesla Model Y. We're going to have 300 miles of range, but I don't know if that's on the base model. You'll have 0 to 60 under 3 seconds in the top trim. It's supposed to start at $45,000, and I think it's a really cool SUV. And big, boxy is super popular right now. The R1S is popular for that reason, and this is kind of like a shrunken down R1S. And you have the roll down window here like you do in let's say the 4Runner from Toyota, and I think this thing is going to do really well. The problem is it's not launching for 2 more years. First half of 2026. I want this vehicle to be available now, and it's got the specs to compete in today's market, but in 2 years from now, is it going to have the specs to compete in the future market? I mean, from a design aspect, from a functionality aspect, absolutely. From an acceleration aspect, of course. But is the range going to be competitive in 2 years? Things like that. So I'm excited for it. It's definitely better than the current Rivians because of, you know, they're giving it glove boxes, for example, and there's just seemingly with this platform that is shared with now with the R3, it's going to do very well for them. There are those glove boxes, and the materials look pretty nice. You got the big scrolly wheels on there. I mean, from a design aspect, I think they nailed it. I just rather have circular headlights compared to the oval headlights because this really softens the look. If these were round, the Rivian would be almost like a home run in design for me. But we also have, so it's coming, you can reserve it. It's coming in 2026. Apparently there's been over 60,000 reservations at $100 each. So what is that? Is that $6 million, something like that? But the one that really stole the show was the R3. This is designed after rally vehicles of like the 70s and 80s, like the Lancia Delta, for example. This thing looks really cool. I don't think the front end, again, matches the rest of the vehicle very well, but the roof line looks pretty cool overall. I guess we don't have specs for this vehicle. It doesn't seem like at this point. But it is gorgeous. And this one, if the Rivian R2 starts at 45, if they can get this to start at $30,000 for a single engine or a single motor model, I think we could have something truly special here. It's got lots of nostalgic vibe for me. It reminds me a little bit of Polestar 2 at the same time with these yellow accents. You can lift the glass like you can in a lot of modern SUVs, right? But not only can you lift the hatch, you can lift the glass. So it's super functional. You can see it using the Tesla NACS, which the R2 will use by 2026 as well. It's pretty cool. Am I more excited for this than the R2? I would say I'm equally excited. Gosh, this really reminds me of the Polestar 2, kind of from like this area, right, with the wheels but you know, from the back end, it reminds me more of an Ioniq 5. Really minimal interior, like a Polestar, like a Volvo, like a Tesla. It's really, really impressive. The thing is, we don't know when this vehicle is coming out, and the interesting news going on with the Rivians is that the plant that they had, well, they still have planned in Georgia, has been delayed because of financial issues. And this vehicle might not see the light of day. Is as appealing as it would be for mass adoption of electric vehicles and just lowering the price of entry and just having a more affordable, more compact model that most people could really take advantage of. I mean, look at them loading up the bikes. This thing is awesome. It's one of the more impressive EV announcements I've seen in a long time. It gets me really, really excited, but will Rivian live long enough for this amazing concept to see the light of day? I mean, the Rivian stocks blew up after the announcement of these two vehicles for good reason. Because if these two come to the market, then we have some really great competition out there. We also got some videos compiled by Electric, but they look great in motion. What do you expect? They look great in stills. And we have the, I think this is the R2. It's hard to tell from the front, right? Because they all look the same from the front. So the R2 up front looks really, really compact and cute. My gosh, I love it from the back. The front end, those oval headlights, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to, but it's better looking than a Tesla. So that's all I can say there. Then they had a video of it loading into the truck. And over at The Verge, they kind of put a grim look at things. The company lost over $1.5 billion over the last 3 months. So the last quarter, 2023, they're bleeding over $1.5 billion per quarter. If you look at the total loss for the year, $5.4 billion lost. And they have to float on the R1T and the R1S for the next 2 years as they burn billions of dollars per quarter before the the R2 comes out. And then how much longer do we wait for the R3 to come out? If these vehicles were here now, they would be crushing it. Even though the EV demand has really slowed down, it's still growing, but it's really starting to stagnate. But if we get really compelling options here at affordable prices, then that spells well for not only all electric vehicles, but for sure Rivian. The problem is that Georgia plant is not going online anytime soon. They're laying off employees and they're cutting costs in any way they can with reducing production shifts as well. They consolidated their 3 shifts into 2 shifts to reduce costs. I don't know. I want them to survive, and Aston thinks they will survive by not going into EVs anytime soon. And according to Aston, drivers want the sports car smell, feel, and noise. At least Dodge is hedging their bet with the Hurricane Inline 6, right? Still nothing like a V8 snarl and gurgle, right? Aston Martin owners are similar in that regard, seemingly, to the Charger owners, is they don't want an EV because these vehicles, the purpose you get in Aston Martin, other than the design, they're gorgeous, is for the engine. The purpose of you getting a Charger or Challenger is for the V8. And with that identity gone, it really hurts the product. And it doesn't help now. Like I mentioned, that vehicle is now bigger, heavier, and just it's gonna, if you thought the old Chargers and Challengers ate through tires, can you imagine what the new one's gonna do? Aston is saying that they get the idea that people want to drive on electric while they're in town, and so they're gonna have hybrids and plug-in hybrids in their lineup, and their EV is delayed at least until 2026 at the very least. Reports are now just coming out as well that Apple was spending over $1 billion a year to not make a car. And Apple even talked to Mercedes-Benz, Ford, BMW, Volkswagen, and Tesla about partnerships. No one wants to deal with Apple. They want to monopolize everything, I'm sure. They're quality control freaks. They are business control freaks. And that's why all of these additional companies turn them down, not only because they would be a threat to the business potentially long-term, but because they're just so difficult to work with. Apple didn't even have a vehicle to be tested on public roads. That's how far away they were to having anything tangible of an electric vehicle. Apple considered buying Tesla when it was worth less than $30 billion. Tim Cook killed the idea. Could you imagine how a Tesla and Apple partnership would have been? Here's the thing. We wouldn't be seeing the Tesla price cuts right now, I don't think. who knows? It's hard to say, right? You could come with all sorts of different hypotheticals in that situation, but that never progressed. Apple wanted to put self-driving into Mercedes vehicles, but they decided they want to do it on their own. That didn't work out. They talked with BMW, Volkswagen, even Canoe, and they almost struck a deal with McLaren. What? That makes no sense. That doesn't fit the Apple brand ethos whatsoever. That just tells me how desperate they were. Apple wanted to charge $85,000 for its car, but internal estimates put the cost of about $120,000 dead on arrival at that point. Apple bought the Chrysler Proving Ground in Arizona in 2021, is now putting that property back up to sale. Rest in peace, Apple car, we never knew you. A Blazer EV is on sale again, right? It was on a stop sale because of its terrible bricking software made the vehicles unusable. It was one of the worst launches in EV history, or possibly even car history in general, but it's back on the market. They gave it a price cut because the image is so tarnished. They cut the price. Could you imagine if you bought a Blazer EV when it was available initially? Not only did you get screwed with the just inoperable car and bad software, you got screwed with immediate depreciation because once it came off of stop sale, now it is immediately worth less than $6,000 and when you bought it, from $56,000 to $50,000. We have another $6,000 price drop here from $60,000 to $54,000, and about a $62,000 price drop to about a $56,000. So about at $6,000 across the board. They also now qualify for the EV tax credit. So $42,000 with the credit, $47,000, $48,000. At these prices, are you going to be buying the new vehicle? I mean, if I was going to, I would just buy the Honda Prologue because I think it looks better. And you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, right? That's a huge deal. Having Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in any car is super important, right? Almost everyone has an Apple phone or an Android phone. And if that phone can't connect to the car how you want it to, I'm out, right? That's a big possibility for me. 2024 Honda Prologue, I haven't driven it yet, but that now qualifies for the EV tax credit as well. And let's see. Let's compare prices now. We have lots of different configurations here from Honda. We're at about $41,000, which is $1,000 less than the base Blazer EV model. It tops out at about $52,000 after tax credit, where this model does not. But I don't know. There might be additional trim levels here. I just don't know the Blazer EV model that well. Maybe if I review it, I'll know the trim levels a little bit better, and how they stack up. But base model to base model, the Honda's cheaper too. And you get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I mean, come on, people. And it just looks way better. So win for Honda. The Honda product is already better than the General Motors product. And this Honda product is built on the same line in Mexico as the Blazer EV. General Motors, don't know what to say. Most powerful Acura ever. And also Honda waited. They waited to launch this Prologue EV because, well, they probably knew of the software issues. Now they get to launch it with seemingly those software issues ironed out. And so the image of the Prologue is still intact to an extent, right? Some people and a lot of people are saying, I don't want this vehicle because it's a General Motors product. I want my Honda to be a Honda. And I get that. Other than that, its image hasn't been tarnished like the bricking stop sale Blazer EV. The Acura ZDX, I'll be driving it in a few months as well. Also qualifies for the EV tax credit. However, you got to keep in mind that the EV tax credit, well, isn't there a cutoff on SUVs? I know it's $55,000 on sedans, and I'm pretty sure it's $80,000 for SUVs. So they do all seemingly qualify for the EV tax credit, and this is the price before the tax credit. We're still upper 50s after tax credit for the base model. And if you lease all these EVs, they're all going to qualify for that $7,500 to reduce that price. We know these EVs are very, very expensive, and that's just the way it's going to be until we have new, better, more cost-effective battery technology that's hopefully a lot lighter, especially for the sake of all EVs, but for Dodge's Charger whale of an EV. Speaking of cheap cars, though, BYD deepens EV price war. So the Chinese have figured out how to make cheap electric cars. We're here in America. We're kind of stumbling. They have the entire infrastructure there in China. They have all the minerals. They have all the refinement places. So that's why they're all fully integrated with the EV industry. But they just dropped the price of the Seagull. It's already cheapest car by 5%, and it's now less than $10,000, $9,700. It uses sodium batteries. I would love to have this vehicle. It's like a mini Bolt EV, and it'd be great for a city car. This thing is super cute. It's kind of like a Chevy Spark size, I would say. Very, very cute. I would love to have something like this. There's just no chance of us getting cheap EVs anytime soon in America, right? The profit margins on something like this has to be very, very low. But that's the thing is, they're able to provide a cheap car like this largely due to the cheap sodium ion battery. So if we can get cheap sodium ion batteries for your golf cart around town, that's what these EVs kind of are, but they have much higher top speeds, then I think we could see a big EV uptick. Anyways, I'm going to end it there. There's more news I wanted to talk about, but I'm running out of steam. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the comments and in next week's EV update video. Can't wait to see what you guys have to say about that Charger EV. It's not looking good, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe people love it. Maybe the reviewers really enjoy it, but man, that thing's nearly 6,000 pounds. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.